This is on YouTube. If you haven't, please click subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and leave comments in the comment section. We appreciate your comments and thank you for watching. Okay, today I'm going to play a song by Namewee. I've been mispronouncing his name in the last several videos that we've done. It looks like Namewee in English, but I think it's pronounced Namewee, so I apologize for the mispronunciation of the name. So Namewee is a Malaysian singer, and this is a song he did called Beyond the Edge. And first I'm going to play through the song, and then I'm going to play through a second time with commentary. So here we go. We're going to listen to the song first. Beyond the Edge by Namewee.
原谅我总不停受伤跌倒，无处可逃，用尽力气挣脱，我却只能咆哮。前路茫茫遥望，夜黑风高，抵不过这浪潮。伸出手，是否还能拥抱？兄弟，那些光辉的岁月，高举着拳头，满腔热血，为了理想和自由，我们撑过了多少寒夜，不顾一切，不能磨灭。风雨里追赶，就算再多的梦魇，每次濒临幻灭，崩溃瓦解，我们始终在最前线。追逐的不是火焰云烟，是火焰，是坚决一起共同创造了心中完美的世界。用力奔向远方，最终的目标，不计在途中，你我都曾经跌倒，岁月如梭，伤痛。不可能忘掉燃起生活的火药，不放手，要紧紧抓牢。因为我总不停受伤跌倒，无处可逃，用尽力气挣脱，我却只能咆哮。前路茫茫遥望，夜黑风高，抵不过这浪潮。伸出手，是否还能拥抱？冲破这一道黑牢，海阔天空就在破晓。他说他放下，想平静庸碌的过生活。他说他离开是因为抵不过，也戳不破。他说请认命吧，认输吧，不是我们的错。那一片海阔天空，再看不见白鸽和彩虹。用完最后一口气，他为最卑微的权利在乌烟瘴气的高压下拼命的用力呼吸。从前的战友和兄弟切记，我们曾一起努力，用我之前种种暴力，用力奔向远方，最终的目标，不计在途中，你我都是跌倒，岁月如梭，伤痛不可能忘掉燃起生活的火药，要紧紧抓牢。为何对自己耻笑？为何让勇敢失效？在不停坠入死角。也许会饱受煎熬，也许已无可救药，梦想是最后依靠。原谅我总不停受伤跌倒，无处可逃，用尽力气挣脱，我却只能咆哮。前路茫茫遥望，夜黑风高，抵不过这浪潮。伸出手，是否还能拥抱？前路茫茫遥望，夜黑风高，抵不过这浪潮。伸出手，我依然去拥抱。Oh yeah. Oh yeah. 冲破这一道黑牢。
So I can tell that this song is more serious than his previous than the previous songs that I've commented on.
Christine say hello, Mr. American Cleveland.
Hello, Chris Ling. Thank you for commenting. Good evening, and thanks for watching our channel.
My phone next to picture.
Okay. So yes, I can. I get the impression that this song is about the struggles in Hong Kong, and the struggles that actually started back in 2003, just 6 years after the handover from the British to the Chinese in 1997, July 1st, 1997. On that date, Hong Kong was returned to China as a special administrative region. Hong Kong had been under lease by the British from the Chinese. It was a 100-year lease, and the lease ended in 1997. Okay, so now I'm going to play through the song and comment line by line. If you have any comments yourself, please leave them in our comment section. We'll be happy to hear from you and comment on the video. Okay, so I'm going to play through a second time and comment line by line. Forgive me as I keep getting hurt and falling. So this evokes the image of someone who is fighting a lopsided battle, a battle in which they are by far the weaker entity. I have nowhere to escape. So again, this reminds me of a lot of the people who are pro-democracy and pro-freedom to vote and pro-free speech in Hong Kong. Hong Kong is a small city, and is very hard to escape the authorities in Hong Kong. Probably nearly impossible. I've used up all my strength, but I can only growl. I'm not so sure about this one. I guess this refers to the feeling of helplessness that maybe some pro-democracy protesters in Hong Kong feel.
The crackdown on the Hong Kong people,
right, the national
policing,
right, the national security law, which was recently passed in Hong Kong, pretty much stifles freedom of expression there nowadays, and
they were depicted as mobs,
Yeah, well, the people who peacefully protested were depicted as mobs, violent mobs by the Chinese-controlled media, and of course I remember seeing peaceful protesters being beaten on the subway by the Hong Kong police in 2019. Okay, thank you for watching. If you have any comments, please leave them on our comment section. The path ahead is unclear and dangerous. It's especially dangerous after the passage of the national security law in Hong Kong. Protesters can be flown to China. They can be extradited to China to face trumped up charges made up by the Communist Party there. Also, the freedom of speech is severely curtailed. A recent survey showed that a majority of foreign media reporters in Hong Kong have considered leaving the city because of the effects of the national law, the chilling effects on the freedom of speech. And recently I learned that the South China Morning Post, which is a Hong Kong-based newspaper, is going to be bought out by a company affiliated with the Chinese government. I can't overcome this tide. So again, this refers probably to the feeling of helplessness by pro-democracy citizens living in Hong Kong, because they can be rounded up by the police just for peacefully protesting and put in prison or even extradited to China.
到底不过这浪潮，伸出手是否还能拥抱？
Can we still embrace if we reach out our hands? So, I'm not sure exactly what he's talking about in this line, but maybe it's a line offering hope.
It's a symbolic term. I mean, embracing freedom.
Embracing freedom. Okay, so it in this line probably refers to freedom. Can we still embrace freedom if we reach out our hands? Is freedom still within the grasp of Hong Kong citizens?
兄弟，那些光辉的岁月。
Yeah, my friends, cheers to those glorious days. Probably talking about when Hong Kong was more free, had more freedom, and the citizens had more freedom.
高举着拳头，满腔热血，为了理想。
We raised our fists with enthusiasm for the sake of our ambition and freedom. He's probably referring to the previous protests, which started in earnest with the 2014 umbrella movement in Hong Kong. So actually, China tried to implement a national security law back in 2003 under Teng Chi-hua, who was the chief executive of Hong Kong at the time. And the national security law was so unpopular, along with the mismanagement of the SARS epidemic in Hong Kong, that Teng Chi-hua resigned, stepped down, and the national security law was permanently shelved or done away with at the time. Then in 2012, there was an attempt to usher in more patriotic education in public schools in Hong Kong, and this was met with tens of thousands of students, parents, and teachers protesting, including Joshua Wong, who was only 15 years old at the time, in this 2012 protest. In 2014, of course, there was the umbrella movement, and this was when Beijing said that they were going to vet all the candidates for office, and it sparked a big protest, the umbrella movement, in 2014. And I'll talk a little bit more about the other protests later on.
和自由，我们撑过了多少寒夜？
We've survived so many chilly nights. Again, talking about the protest for freedom in Hong Kong and the protest against the crackdown by Beijing on the freedom of Hong Kong people. Okay, if you have any comments, please leave them and we'd be happy to read them.
不顾一切，不能抹灭。
We've gone all in and it can't be forgotten. Again, he's talking about all the sacrifices that the Hong Kong citizens have made in their fight against this authoritarian takeover of Hong Kong by China.
Your face is not in the center of the.
Okay. I need to adjust my seating. Okay, there we go.
与你追赶，就算
We could catch up in the hardships, although there are so many nightmares. So, the nightmares, of course, are brought on by the Chinese Communist Party and their authoritarian crackdown on Hong Kong.
再多的梦魇，每次濒临幻灭。
We break down at the verge of disillusion. So the disillusionment is caused by the fact that, you know, exercising free speech in Hong Kong now can get you sent to prison. Joshua Wong, whom I mentioned earlier, is currently in prison for peaceful protest. And a judge recently tacked 10 more months onto his original 4-month prison sentence.
崩溃瓦解，我们始终在最前线。
But we've always been at the front line. Again, talking about the people who have risked their livelihoods and even their life to protest the unlawful authoritarian takeover of Hong Kong. We're not chasing after I think that's a misspelling. Superficities? I'm not sure. But I think what he's trying to say is, you know, they're not just doing this superficially. The protesters have a lot to lose by protesting China's authoritarian takeover. They're not just doing this for show. They're doing this because they believe strongly in the cause that they're fighting for.
追逐的不是过眼云烟，是火焰，是坚决。
But flame and determination. So we're not chasing after superficiality. We're chasing after, you know, more concrete things. Freedom. Let's create the perfect world together. So a lot of people would say, what is the perfect world? Well, there's probably no such thing. But the freedom of speech and the freedom of movement and the freedom to peacefully protest go a long way toward having a good society.
一起共同创造了心中完美的世界。用力奔向
Let's run earnestly to our final target. Afar. Let's run earnestly to our final target afar. Does this mean that he's giving up and he is seeking freedom elsewhere besides Hong Kong? Or does it mean that the goal of freedom is still far from their reach when he says the target is afar? So probably Jason believes he's talking about the goal of freedom.
Miss Pearl said, "Hi guys, greeting from Malaysia."
Hey Miss Pearl, thank you for watching our video. We appreciate your comments, and thank you for watching again. So let's run earnestly. So run can be a euphemism for making a big push towards a goal. Both you and I tumbled for being unruly. So tumble means to take a fall, to fall down. And unruly could be referring to, you know, the Hong Kong government referring to protesters as being unruly. The Hong Kong government and the Hong Kong police denigrated the protesters, the peaceful and pro-freedom, pro-democracy protesters in the media. So, so maybe he's talking about their reputation taking a hit because they were labeled as being unruly by the Hong Kong It's impossible to forget our pain, even though time flies like a shuttle. So yeah, even though time moves quickly, it's impossible to forget the pain that the protesters have endured, seeing their beloved city lose the freedoms that they hold dear over a short span of time. Thank you, Jasmine Shui, for donating to our channel. We really appreciate it.
I can see that.
And if you have any comments, please leave them, and we will read them and try to respond during the live stream. And hold on tight. Lit up the passion in our chest. So hold on tight. Don't let go of your dreams. Don't let go of your goals. Lit up the passion in your chest, in our chest, refers to the fire in someone's heart.
Undertale say that we can't forget the hurtful history past.
Yeah, we cannot forget the hurtful, painful history of the past. We can't sweep it under the rug. It can't be forgotten.
Let's try harder to fight for our freedom.
Right. Freedom is worth dying for. Forgive me as I keep getting hurt and falling. I have nowhere to escape. I've used up all my strength, but I can only growl. The path ahead is unclear and dangerous. So again, he's talking about the pro-democracy movement has been beaten down, but they haven't given up. Even though the path ahead is laced with trouble. I can't overcome this tide. Can we still embrace it if we reach out our hands? So again, he's talking about this being a lopsided battle. The pro-democracy, pro-freedom protesters in Hong Kong up against the powerful Chinese Communist Party and Chinese government. Can they still reach their goal of freedom and democracy? Break through this dark prison. Break through this wall of authoritarianism that China has imposed on this once free city. You can see the vast sky at dawn. So maybe the vast sky is the promise, a euphemism for the promise of freedom. And also, Hong Kong is known for its beautiful skyline. He says to forget it all and live a peaceful life. I'm not sure who he is. Maybe he's talking about Xi Jinping. But yes, that is the enticement that authoritarian governments try to use. And that is, just forget about freedom. Forget about that. And live a peaceful life. Don't try to fight a government that's more powerful, ostensibly, than you. And no, I don't believe that. But I mean, he is talking about someone here trying to tell the pro-democracy protesters,
Don't despair.
well, yeah, that's the message of this song. But in this line, he is saying that there's someone out there, possibly the Chinese Communist Party, trying to tell the Hong Kong people that they can have a peaceful life if they just forget their loss of democracy. But it's a trap.
想平静庸碌的过生活。他说他离开。
He left because he couldn't win nor break out. So I'm not sure who he's talking about here. He left because he couldn't win or break out. Is he talking about a specific pro-democracy protester here?
Most of, but there are still some Hong Kongers who just try to.
I know.
They choose to accept the reality.
I know Nathan Law barely escaped. He was going to be imprisoned, and he escaped, and now has freedom in another country. But I don't know if he's talking about a specific person here or not. So if you have any ideas, please leave them in the comment section. Thank you.
是因为抵不过也戳不破，他说请认命。
He resigned to fate and give up.
把认输吧，不是我们的错。
As it's not our fault. So it would be easy to give up when faced with these overwhelming odds in the battle for freedom in Hong Kong.
那一片海阔天空再看不见。
Under the vast sky, we can no longer see pigeon and rainbow. So again, I think he's talking about the loss of freedoms that the citizens of Hong Kong have suffered under the Chinese rule and the Chinese security law that was forced on Hong Kong.
白鸽和彩虹用完最后一口气。
We shall defend our modest rights. So in other words, the protesters will continue to fight for modest rights. What are modest rights? Well, I consider modest rights to be the freedom of suffrage, the freedom to vote for candidates that are not hand-picked by the Communist Party of China, the freedom of speech, the freedom to criticize the government or anyone or anything you choose, or the freedom to defend or promote what you choose. With our last breath, we are under the pressure of foul atmosphere. So some people are saying that Hong Kong's freedom is on its last legs. And the people of Hong Kong are under great pressure from China in this foul atmosphere where something as simple as saying you support a democratic society can get you sent to prison. We shall breathe desperately. To my comrades and friends, please remember. So we shall breathe desperately means we shall continue to fight for these last vestiges of freedom. Gore Hong said, Hong Kong has been destroyed by CCP tyranny. And I would agree, the CCP has wrecked Hong Kong. They have shut the borders and cracked down on movement in the city under the lie that they are trying to protect the citizens from COVID-19. And nothing could be further from the truth. They're talking about reopening the border with the mainland while the cases in the mainland are surging. So if it was about COVID-19, they would not be reopening the border with the mainland. But it's not about COVID-19. It's about the Communist Party trying to tighten its grip on Hong Kong and the freedom of movement in Hong Kong. John Lee said, Namewee is the bravest young Malaysian artist. Thank you for yet another video promoting his great work to the Western world. Thank you also to John Lee for watching our channel, and we appreciate your comment. Okay, this line says, to my comrades and friends, please remember, we once worked hard together to move forward fearlessly and brutally. Let's run earnestly to our final target, afar. So he's basically saying, in my opinion, not to give up, not to forget what you fought for, what the pro-democracy citizens of Hong Kong have fought for. Let's continue to push for the final target, the freedom of the citizens of Hong Kong. Even though the goal is still a long ways, or seems to be far in the distance. Both you and I tumbled for being unruly. I think he is talking about the protesters who have suffered for speaking out against the atrocities and the malfeasance committed by China, the Chinese government. It's impossible to forget our pain. Don't forget the suffering that you've endured for the goal of freedom. Even though time flies like a shuttle, lit up the passion in our chest. So he's saying, even though time passes quickly, the fire in our heart still burns. And hold on tight. Don't let go of your dreams. Why do we mock ourselves? So, I don't know what he's talking about here. Is he talking about some traitorous Hong Kongers who make fun of the pro-democracy protesters? If you have a clue as to what this line is referring to, please leave a comment in the comment section. Okay, Gore Hong said the U.S. must stop the evil regime. The U.S. is our hope.
And Unbearable Underhill also said that they only hope that Trump will win again.
Okay, let me say I'm not a big Trump fan. I'm not a big Biden fan either. I'm looking for someone for U.S. president who is younger and who is more about equality, not communism, but equality. And I do think the U.S.'s image has suffered somewhat in recent years overseas. But I don't think that Donald Trump is the only hope for fighting China. I think, like I said in the past, the Communist Party is China's worst enemy, and there are already many negative things going on caused directly by the Communist Party in China at this moment that could lead to the downfall of the Communist Party. Not to mention, the U.S. has continued to put pressure on China and has continued to sell weapons to Taiwan to try to keep China in check and to prevent the expansion of China in the South China Sea and Southeast Asia. Because I think every American, Democrat or Republican, believes in the freedom of speech and democracy. It's not just one political party in America that believes in these things. It's ingrained in me, even though I didn't support Donald Trump. the idea that freedom of speech and democracy are rights that are worth dying for is part of who I am as an American citizen.
Let me try to translate what Jasmine, who just donated money, said.
Okay.
She actually pointed out that this song actually is similar to the song sang by Beyond, the band.
The band Beyond.
Yeah. So they try to memorize the band of Beyond band, right? And also they try to memorize the glorious past 20 or 30 years ago in Hong Kong.
Okay. So thank you, Jasmine, for your comment and also for your donation. I really appreciate it, and thanks for lending some clarity to this song. I'm not too familiar with the band Beyond, so I'll have to look up more information about that. All right, someone said, you Americans, why trust the evil CCP China? We don't. The majority of Americans do not trust the CCP, and I definitely don't. I am definitely against the Communist Party. So I don't know where you got that. Maybe you misinterpreted my comment about not supporting President Trump completely. I'm not a Trump fan. I'm not a Biden fan. I'm more of an independent. And that's the great thing about America. We don't have to believe in one political party. We can support who we want to. Why does our courage lose its efficacy? I guess this is a rhetorical question. Even though the protesters are very courageous, the effectiveness of their protests has been stifled. And we keep falling into the blind side. So I guess what he's talking about is that, the protesters have reduced coverage in the media, mainly because the Communist Party has stifled the freedom of the media in Hong Kong, and they have tried to control what stories get out of Hong Kong. And also, they have discouraged foreign journalists from remaining in Hong Kong. So the communist government is trying to control the narrative coming out of Hong Kong. John Lee said it's very difficult for any Southeast Asians to speak out against the tyranny of the CCP because young people like Namewee have either grandparents or parents from China. That's a very good point. I don't know what I would do if, my parents or grandparents were still living in China.
But Namingwee's ancestors are from Hainan,
Hainan.
Yeah, Hainan. So he just set up a very good example,
I would, it would be a very difficult choice to make if I had relatives who would be persecuted by the Communist Party in China. I think I would still support democracy, but when faced with that situation, it's hard to tell exactly what each individual person would do. If your grandparents or parents were being persecuted, or brothers or sisters were being persecuted by the Communist Party.
Then Simon said that he can't face the MV because by the time he listens to the music, he cries.
I definitely feel the pain in the lyrics of the song too. And I'm depressed when I listen to the song because I know what's going on in Hong Kong, and I know that the protesters have been marginalized in part because of COVID-19, but also because of the Chinese crackdown on the media that gets out of Hong Kong, the news stories that come out of Hong Kong. and it's only going to increase. The pressure is only going to increase. So it's hard not to feel defeatist in that kind of environment. And we keep falling into the blind side. We might feel suffering. But our dream is the last reliance. Our dreams are all that we have to live for. Forgive me as I keep getting hurt and falling. Referring to the setbacks suffered by the protesters for freedom and democracy in Hong Kong. I have nowhere to escape. I've used up all my strength, but I can only growl. So again, referring to the lopsided battle that the protesters in Hong Kong have faced against the authoritarian rule of the Chinese Communist Party. The path ahead is unclear and dangerous. I can't overcome this tide. Can we still embrace it if we reach out? Reach out our hands afar. So again, he is talking about the dream of freedom and democracy still being far from the grasp of pro-democracy protesters in Hong Kong. Is it still achievable? The path ahead is unclear and dangerous. I can't overcome this tide. So he's repeating the line talking about how unfair this battle is, how lopsided this battle is, like David and Goliath in the Bible. I'm still embracing it as I reach out my hands. Still embracing the dream of freedom, democracy, and suffrage. Break through this dark prison. You can see the vast sky at dawn. Okay, so I would like to say that I can feel the frustration coming through in this song, the frustration at the righteousness of the battle of the citizens of Hong Kong for freedom of democracy and freedom of speech, basic human rights, the right to speak out and not be put in prison. The right to speak out and not be extradited to China or disappeared. Speaking of disappeared, I was talking about the umbrella movement in 2014. In 2015, Hong Kong booksellers started disappearing. They were selling books that were critical of the Communist Party in China. And the biggest protest so far happened in 2019, and this is when the gloves came off. The chief executive, Carrie Lam, stopped pretending that she was not a puppet of the Communist Party And basically the Chinese government infiltrated the Hong Kong law enforcement agencies and set up their own security agencies in Hong Kong and started beating peaceful protesters and tear gassing them and putting them in prison. So and then, COVID-19 broke out, and since that time China has tightened its authoritarian grip on Hong Kong, and the number of stories of protest reaching the mainstream media worldwide has decreased. So China is basically trying to strangle the last bit of freedom out of Hong Kong, and it's extremely frustrating. Even though I'm not a Hong Konger, it's frustrating to watch this happen. Okay, John Lee says, as propaganda, CCP all the time portrays the party as the parents of all overseas Chinese and calls them as the lost children wandering around the world. And of course, John, this is ridiculous. It would be like the British saying that, all the former members of the British Empire overseas are lost children, and that they should all reunite under the umbrella of the UK. It's laughable. It's so ridiculous. It doesn't even deserve mention that China is the parent of all Chinese people. Their ancestors might have come from China hundreds or thousands of years ago. But the government that is in charge of China now has nothing to do with the Chinese people. Like I said, the government in China now is the greatest enemy of the Chinese people. All right, thank you for your comments. If you have any other comments, please let me know.
All right, let's go over the song again.
Play through the song again. Okay, I'm going to play through Namewee's
collecting the questions.
Song Beyond the Edge again, and hopefully you'll leave your comments and we can talk about those. Thank you for watching.
原谅我总不停受伤跌倒，无处可逃，用尽力气挣脱，我却只能咆哮。前路茫茫遥望，夜黑风高，抵不过这浪潮，伸出手是否还能拥抱？兄弟，那些光辉的岁月，高举着拳头，满腔热血，为了理想和自由，我们撑过了多少寒夜，不顾一切，不能抹灭。风雨里追赶，就算再多的梦魇，每次濒临幻灭，崩溃瓦解，我们始终在最前线。追逐的不是过眼云烟，是火焰，是坚决一起共同创造了心中完美的世界。用力奔向远方，最终的目标，不计在途中，你我都曾经跌倒，岁月如梭，伤痛。不可能忘掉燃起生活的火药，不放手，要紧紧抓牢。原谅我总不停受伤跌倒，无处可逃，用尽力气挣脱，我却只能咆哮。前路茫茫遥望，夜黑风高，抵不过这浪潮，伸出手是否还能拥抱？冲破这一道黑牢，海阔天空就在破晓。他说他放 放下，想平静庸碌的过生活。他说他离开是因为抵不过，也戳不破。他说请认命吧，认输吧，不是我们的错。那一片海阔天空，再看不见白鸽和彩虹。用完最后一口气，捍卫最卑微的权利，在乌烟瘴气的高压下拼命的用力呼吸。从前的战友和兄弟切记，我们曾一起努力，用之前种种暴力，用力奔向远方最终的目标。天在不同，你我都是跌倒，岁月如梭伤痛，不可能我的骄傲，要紧紧抓牢。为何对自己耻笑？为何让勇敢死笑？在不停坠入死角。也许会饱受煎熬，也许已无可救药，梦想是最后依靠。原谅我总不停受伤跌倒，无处可逃，用尽力气挣脱，我却只能咆哮。前路茫茫遥望，夜风高低，不过这浪潮，伸出手是否还能拥抱？前路茫茫遥望，夜风高低，不过这浪潮，伸出手我依然去拥抱。
Okay, we got some comments during the playing of the song. Gore Hong said, a few days ago, one of the pro-China media in Hong Kong stated that the language English is a hegemony. I never knew a language could be hegemony. I don't think they understand the meaning of the word hegemony. Speaking about the Chinese media. Because a language is a language. Now, in the past, the British Empire did practice colonialism and spread the English language around the world through colonialism. But that is in the distant past. And currently, it doesn't engage in colonialism, and neither does the United States. So we've moved on. The rest of the world has moved on. But the English language by no means is hegemony. That's like saying Chinese is hegemony, which is ridiculous. Just a ridiculous comment. If I had to, diagnose the Communist Party, I would say it's suffering from paranoid schizophrenia. Sometimes they try to say, well, we want to be the responsible government in the world and bring people together. And then in the next minute, they're saying, well, if you don't agree with us, we will kill you or put you in prison. Case in point is just yesterday, I think they were saying that any pro-democracy or pro-independence supporters in Hong Kong would be punished for life, as if they have any authority over Taiwan. Which, of course, they don't. They don't make laws here. They don't enforce the laws here. And they're not going to anytime soon. So, yeah, at one point they're saying they're trying to be level-headed and be the world diplomat. And then in the next sentence they're saying, we will put you in prison or we'll kill you if you don't go along with what we say is true. Okay, Gore Hong said CCP not only implement Mandarin since 1997, but also destroy Cantonese in recent years and start to destroy English now. So he's talking about Hong Kong. So I wasn't aware of that. I didn't know that they were actually trying to wipe out Cantonese in Hong Kong or English in Hong Kong. John Lee said, CCP in all Southeast Asian countries all the time calling overseas Chinese to be loyal to the quote-unquote motherland. So it's very rare for any young artist, Namewee or not, to speak against the motherland. Yeah, I have a problem with the term motherland, and back when the U.S. created the Department of Homeland Security, I had a problem with the term homeland because it kind of sounds like an authoritarian term. You're insinuating that these people belong to that country, not that the country belongs to the people, which is the way it should be. The country should belong to the people, not the other way around. Gore Hong said, Hong Kongers speaks Cantonese and English, usually in Hong Kong. The CCP forces our people to speak Mandarin. And that's wrong. They should not force you to speak a language that is not your mother tongue. It's happened in history in the past by invading armies, though. Armies invading other countries have often forced the citizens of the country to speak the invader's language. In fact, England, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, was for a short time forced to speak French in public because of the French invading.
Yumi says sayonara, means goodbye.
Sayonara, thank you for watching. And there are some Chinese comments.
Say a secret society origin what?
A secret society originating in the CCP China, typically involved in organized crime. We Japanese and Hong Kongers very clear. So yeah, it's well known that the CCP, funds organized crime in Taiwan, and they often pay organized crime members to persecute pro-democracy figures. Like there was a restaurant that's created by Hong Kong expats in Taipei that's been attacked at least twice, once with chicken feces and once with paint, I think. And this was done by organized crime members who were no doubt funded by the Communist Party of China.
I think we are gonna play another song and then we are going to end the live stream today, okay?
Okay.
The next song is a song we are going to react next weekend, which is also sung by
Namewee.
Namewee, yeah. According to, by Little Pinky standard, I think it's extremely humiliating to Japanese people by mocking their pronunciation.
Oh.
So you wanna listen to it?
But I don't like mocking other people's pronunciation.
It just make fun of. Now, did I just say Little Pinky standard?
Oh, okay.
We just like we take light on the Ghost Island. We don't feel offended.
Okay, I get what you're talking about now. Oh, I'd like to mention John Lee said the term fatherland was used by the Nazi Germans during World War II. Yes, that's another reason why I don't like the term motherland or fatherland. It smacks of hegemony. Okay, so we're going to play another song by Namewee, and this one is poking fun.
Yeah. That's something we are going to talk about next week.
Okay, we'll also discuss this song in our live stream next week.
All right.
Is that loud enough? Okay.
Tokyo konnichiwa sumimasen I foreigner I don't speak Japanese but I love aoi sora When you say wakarimashita I say Hitachi Toyota Kawasaki Nintendo and also Nihon I'm losing my way So where should I go? Shinjuku so big I need a Doraemon You speak Japanese What can I do? Where should I go?
マクドナルドグーグルトイレとキットカットディズニーランドタクシーがホテルセブンイレブンミルクバスビールスターバックス
Tokyo konnichiwa sumimasen I foreigner I don't speak Japanese but I love ramen tempura When you say arigato konbawa I say Suzuki Yamaha Uniqlo Toshiba Casio Kochira I'm losing my way So where should I go? Shinjuku so big I need a Doraemon You speak Japanese What can I do? Where should I go? Please take me home
マクドナルドグーグルトイレとキットカットディズニーランドタクシーがホテルセブンイレブンミルクバスビールスターバックス サラダハンバーガーサンドイッチソーセージコーヒーケーキアイスクリームコンビニフライドポテトエスカレータアルコールバレーボールベースボールバスケットボールゴルフマクドナルドグーグルトイレとキットカットディズニーランドタクシーがホテルセブンイレブンミルクバスビールスターバックスサラダハンバーガーサンドイッチコーヒーケーキアイスクリームコンビニフライドポテトエスカレータアルコールバレーボールベースボールスリーパー
Okay, that's an interesting song.
Yeah, it's poking fun, you know.
A lot of them are brand names, you know?
Yeah.
Brand names which I recognize. Disneyland, Canon, Toyota, Honda,
You can turn off
the YouTube,
the whole web.
the web browser. Okay. All right, so I'd like to say again, thank you for watching. We got a couple of more comments. Referring to John Lee's comment about Germany being called the fatherland by Hitler and the Nazis during World War II. Yes, I thought about it, and it implies that, well, you know, using a term like motherland or fatherland implies that you're promoting ultra-nationalism, which is dangerous. You don't want people to be too nationalistic so that they are blind to human rights and what's right and what's wrong, which is what happened during Nazi Germany, World War II. So, yeah, the terms motherland and fatherland kind of rub me the wrong way. I don't like them. Also, Winston T. said the name of the national security law itself is a lie. CCP security law is the real name. And you're right. That's basically, I mean, they came up with the name National Security Law. The CCP came up with that name to make it sound like they were trying to protect the Hong Kong citizens. But of course, the Hong Kong citizens don't buy it. So the name was probably made up for overseas countries, to try to sell the BS that the CCP is trying to protect the citizens of Hong Kong, which is what they've said they're trying to do. But of course, we don't believe it. We know that this is a law to protect the Communist Party. And the Communist Party is really paranoid. That is their greatest weakness. They're extremely paranoid. They can't tolerate any amount of dissension or criticism. And I think that will eventually be their downfall. They cannot tolerate any criticism. How can you grow if you can't tolerate criticism? How can you learn from your mistakes if you can't tolerate criticism? So I really do believe that's their greatest weakness.
All right. Next week we are going to react the song called Tokyo Pan.
Okay, yeah.
It's poking fun, you know. We just want to show those so-called little pinkies that we can actually make fun, you know, of something without, you know, being offended.
Right. The freedom of speech is paramount. And so next week we're going to talk about Tokyo Pan by Namewee, and hopefully you'll tune in next weekend to watch our channel, Jason Adam TV.
Just stay tuned.
Thank you for watching. Please leave comments. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Have a good weekend.
Have a good weekend.